Hey y'all, welcome back. So in the last video, we saw how to set up evaluations based on the issues we created a few videos prior. What we're going to do now is take those evaluations and put them to use. Now, if we go back to issues here, I'll remind you that we created two evaluations. We created an evaluation for tool failure to extract information from website, and we created another one for duplicate tool invocations causing redundant operations. If you recall, we approached the first issue with an LLM as judge evaluation. And the second issue we addressed with a programmatic rule evaluation. So now let's get to the dataset. The dataset you'll have access to in the resources section of this video. So how do we run an experiment? The first thing we need to do is go to our prompt. And then we're going to go to this experiments tab up here. Now, if you recall, you'll see the experiment we ran here earlier in the course that didn't have any evaluations tied to it. So what we're going to do here is go up to run experiment again. And here we'll do much of the same that we did in the first instance. We give a name to the experiment. Let's call it our first experiment with evaluations. Pick a provider and a model, and set a temperature. The next thing we're going to do is select the evaluations that we would like to run with the experiment. All right, so we're going to go here and select duplicate tool call and extraction error. So once those are selected, we can go down and we can do as we did last video and populate the parameters. So let's select our data set. This one here I've called Festival Experiment Dataset. Here I'd like to point out something. I'm going to be running this with all of the lines of the data, there's 100 lines of data. However, understand that this is going to be quite an intensive process because you're running an experiment with a couple evaluations which are separate LLM calls. And so if you have any limits or what have you, you might want to go here and lower this number to something like 10 or 20. And you can get a little bit of an idea of how the experiments work for now. And then if later you would like to try with a bigger experiment, you can do that. But in this case, I'm going to go and do all of the lines of the data. Okay. I'm just include all lines here. Alrighty. Now, username and customer query, we select those two. What we're doing there, if you recall, is just associating the rows with the parameters that we have in our prompt. All right. And then here we're going to turn off simulate tools. Awesome. So all we have to do now is run our experiment. So we go down here and we hit run experiment. Now this is going to take a while, so I'll be back when it's done running. All right. So now we're back. We've ran the entirety of the experiment. It actually only took 1 minute and 30 seconds, which is kind of nice. And we see here that we have a very low average of 2.5. So that means we have a lot of work to do with our prompts to make it better. You'll see over here that we have 195 failures and then 5 successes. So what that means here is you'll see that this adds up to 200. That's because we have 2 evaluations running on 100 logs. So that's going to add up to 200. And so we have 195 failures with the logs, and we have 5 successes. So that would mean we have 5 instances where there was evaluations that passed. So generally, you're not going to have results that are this extreme. However, this is illustrative of the point of how we're going to be able to fix this in the future. Okay, so now there's a few things we can do to approach understanding our experiment. And this is actually where a lot of the fun part comes. We can become a little bit like investigators. Let's get started investigating. What we can do here is go over to see 100 logs, and we can see all the information about the experiment. So if we look here, we have all of the logs for the entire experiment. And we'll see here in the evaluation section that we have the failures. So you can see here that both of them failed. Both of the evaluations failed all the way down here. And here we have one where one of the evaluations passed. So we can click on that, for example, if we're curious about what passed, and we can go over to our evaluations and we can see that the extraction error. So here, for example, there was no issues of extracting information from the website. However, there was a duplicate tool call. Okay. So those are the type of things we can go and look for. All right, so now let's move on and let's look at if we have any other passings. So in this page, we don't. We can go into the next page here. And here I found another pass. Let's go click on this and see what happened. Evaluations. And we passed the extraction error. Okay, but we still had a duplicate tool call. Okay, awesome. Taking a look here. You can see this double tool call. So everything checks out. Good. That means our evaluations are working well. So after having created our evaluations and then ran an experiment with our evaluations, looked at our logs, and we have a better understanding of actually the severity of these issues in a more scientific manner because we have these logs running with evaluations for every instance, we conclude the evaluation section of the reliability loop. which leads us to the last section of the reliability loop, iteration, which we'll get into in the next unit of this course. Thanks for your time and happy prompting.